here to talk a little bit about Texas State. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ishmael Johnson.
Wow.
Yeah! Wow.
Right. Hey.
I don't know why that door's so big.
I don't know why.
Okay.
You asked me to leave and then come back. It was really weird.
So you're writing the Texas State preview for the 2019 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
Yep.
And you were down in San Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
You went down to San Marcos and talked with a number of people down there.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, obviously there is a new regime in charge.
Right.
Jake Spavital has come in, taking over for Everett Withers. You're a guy who knows this program really well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sense some sort of difference between what was and what is?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Because for everything because I wrote when Withers was let go, I wrote a piece saying that whether or not he won or whether or not he was successful or not in the wins and loss columns, Texas State needed a coach like Everett Withers to clear the slate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And with Jake Spavital, and I believe Withers' presence, whether it was in the media, with alumni, all that, it might have come off as standoffish, but I think that was just him. He knew what he had to do. He was I'm here to coach football. Very, very. I don't say closed-minded. That's the wrong word. But tunnel vision. There you go. Jake Spavital is here to. He is not only here to do everything. He wants to do everything. He's here to shake the hands. He's here to. I talked to him on 2 separate occasions, and the guy you saw in the opening press conference was the guy that Jake Spavital is. He's shook every media member's hand to both interviews. It was a scrum for both of them. Both times I was out there, he's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, introduce yourself." Blah blah blah. Really enthusiastic about it. You could tell that he's gotten the same questions over and over again. Obviously for spring camp, because some people just go to one practice and they got to ask all the questions that he's already probably answered before. Doesn't matter. He gives you a very very thoughtful answer every time. Talking to people around, other coaches around. The alumni love him. He's going to these events. He's loving going to Houston to talk to a lot of the alumni base in Houston. He's just part of it is I know I want to say part of it is him being at A&M, right? Because A&M is a place where every booster wants to know every coach.
Correct.
Right? And so when how old was he? 28 when he was thrown into that offensive coordinator gig. They want to know, why is a 28-year-old running this offense? Right, the one that just produced a Heisman Trophy winner and sent a head coach to Texas Tech. Why is this guy now the new guy? And I think that he was probably used to being that kind of, with Texas, there's a lot of politics that goes on being a coach.
Sure.
Shaking the right hands, getting to know the right people. You don't want to get on the bad side of certain people in your alumni base, your booster base. And so I think that time at A&M really, really got him used to being in the spotlight at a young age, and now that he's the guy, he's like, "Oh, this is a cake. I've done this before."
Interesting.
And so that's the kind of the vibe I get is you get a guy who's obviously here to fix the offense primarily. That's why he was brought in. But I think underlying all of that, you have a guy who wants to make everybody happy here. And Withers, I don't want to say he didn't want to make people happy, but he was like, "I'm going to make them happy by producing a good team."
Yeah.
And not necessarily, I could shake your hand and say one thing, but if I don't win, what's it matter? Jake Spavital's like, I'm going to do both.
He's willing to be that politician.
I'm be your best friend, and I'm going to go, I'm going to go try to make this team win.
That's interesting. Now, obviously, you mentioned the offense, and the Texas State offense was miserable. Is that the word?
Thank God for some of the other bottom feeders in the state, because Texas State probably would have been the.
It was it was 126th in offensive S&P plus last week.
Yeah.
Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob.
But they go 3-9. Mm-hmm. Not only do they bring in Jake Spavital, who's an offensive kind of a wunderkind, if you will, but they bring in kind of an OG as their offensive coordinator,
Bob Stitt.
Bob Stitt.
Yeah.
Did you get any sort of sense from talking to people down there about what we can expect from the Texas State offense in 2019?
It was interesting. So I asked Jake Spavital about what was his process of hiring Bob Stitt, because typically when a young coach, whether it's offensive or defensive is their specialty, they go experience for the other side of the ball, right? I kind of expected Jake Spavital to kind of bring in a younger offensive coordinator and then hire an experienced guy for his defensive coordinator slot to let him kind of run the offense. He did the opposite. He went and got Bob Stitt. And so I asked, what was your mentality? And he's like, look, this guy's just an innovator of the game. Like, why would I not want to collaborate with what he's done? And plenty of coaches, Dana Holgerson's referenced him before. He's referenced at all these levels. And I think you can expect it's going to be Jake Spavital, or I think it's going to be a mixture of both. Like, it's going to be a semblance of the air raid, which is what obviously Jake Spavital's specialty is. But Bob Stitt's somebody who has these jet sweep concepts, who has these very innovative spread concepts that are going to utilize a lot of different players in a lot of different spots. And I think that's where it's going to be really interesting to see is exactly what wrinkle of the air raid we get. And it's really interesting. It was really cool to hear Coach Stitt talk about this, because this, as somebody who's referenced by a lot of coaches at every level, NFL down to Power 5 in the FBS, this is his first FBS coordinator gig, right? He was a head coach at FCS, and then he was a head coach at Colorado School of Mines. But this is his first FBS gig where he's really getting to implement his style and not just be referenced as like, oh yeah, Bob Stitt down in the mines. That's
he's
cool.
an analyst or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so now it's actually, okay, now he's going to be calling the plays. Like, it's going to be him. It's not going to be Jake Spavital. And so that's going to be one of the more interesting things to see is now we have two offensive minds coming to try and fix this very broken offensive system that's been broken for a number of years now.
It's been broken for a bit. Yeah. So let's move to the other side of the ball, where the defensive coordinator, he had to look far and wide to find a defensive coordinator, right. And then he went to Thanksgiving dinner,
like, hey,
and he saw his brother, Zach Spavital, and said, hey, man, you ever been to the hill country? And so Zach Spavital is going to be the defensive coordinator, a guy who is kind of co-defensive coordinator, kind of first lieutenant, I would say, to David Gibbs out there at Texas Tech. The Texas Tech defense got better.
Right.
It took the ball away a lot.
Right.
Maybe they gave up their fair share of big plays. But what's the vibe around the defense down there in San Marcos?
That's going to be the interesting part, because a lot of people wanted Chris Woods to hang around after last year, the former defensive coordinator at Texas State.
Because the defense was not bad.
No, the defense was legitimately, I think, top 60, I think. It was somewhere around there. Legitimately good for how bad the offense was. And I believe Bill Connolly put it this way. It's like Texas State wasn't very proactive defensively last year, but they played their bend, don't break very well. Right? They were able to shut down. They were able to force 3 and outs. They weren't getting sacks. They weren't necessarily turning the ball over, but they were making sure that teams weren't driving the ball down the field. Texas Tech was the opposite. They were getting the turnovers, and teams were still probably driving down the field quite a bit, but they were getting the proactive plays, the forced fumbles, the sacks, the interceptions, things like that, the tackles for loss. And so now blending that with a guy who was part of that Texas Tech defense, trying to meld that with a defense that wasn't proactive last year, probably should be. That's going to be really interesting, because also the defensive side of the ball is very, very experienced now. The front seven, spoilers for the magazine, the linebackers are the best in the Sun Belt, like by far. Like these linebackers, they got Frankie Griffin coming back, who had he was granted another year after being coming back last year from injury. So their entire linebacker core is back. Most of their important defensive linemen are back. Most of their secondary is back. Like, it's in a lot of ways, Zach Spavital is coming in and saying, "Hey, just don't mess this up and make it a little bit, but take it to the next level, and it's fine." So, I can't wait to see what he does, because he's been really enthusiastic and really praising of the defense, saying like, "Man, all these got the terminology's down. They got this down. They got this down." He was really impressed with how quickly they picked up everything.
Well, the spring game was this past Saturday. It seems like, obviously there's going to be a little bit of question at the quarterback spot.
Yeah.
That's where everybody – it sounds like Gresh Jensen, the transfer from Montana, acquitted himself pretty well. But Tyler Vitt's a guy who got some starting experience last year, or at least played in 9 games last year. Jensen's probably the front runner. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. He's been taking most of the first team snaps. Obviously, they didn't want to – he's not going to commit to a guy right now in spring, but I'd be shocked day one if we're in College Station and Gresh Jensen's not taking the.
It seems like it's going to be a lot of Anthony Taylor too, the running game.
Right, and I think Anthony Smith is still coming back from injury as well. He was probably their most talented back last year, who missed all of 2018 with I believe a torn ACL. He's still working his way back. Jalen Nelson's coming back, is really acclimating himself to the running back position now. I think they were kind of figuring out where they wanted to use him last year, and I think he's put on a lot of good weight to be a kind of a durable running back now. The receivers are going to be interesting. I think they have some game breakers in Jeremiah Haydell and Hutch White as well, but there's a lot of the offense, whether it's the running backs or the receivers, a lot of it is unproven potential. It's like, I like that guy, but he, I don't know, because the offense was pretty bad overall, so I don't know what he can really do yet. So it's a lot of, there are probably some playmakers there. We just haven't seen them produce because they weren't really put in a position to the past couple of years. It's going to be that's going to be the challenge, is finding the playmakers that have this potential that wasn't able to necessarily blossom in the past couple years.
And the defense, look good. I mean, you got Brian London, you got to have a chance.
Right, you got Brian London, you got to have a chance. Jerron Morris last year from West Orange Stark was an absolute revelation. Might be one of the most talented defensive backs coming back as a sophomore. Pierce Withers is coming back. He's still around. Like he's hanging around. He's really talented as well. I still think he was one of the best secondary guys in Central Texas when he came out of high school and from Bowie. He's going to be proving himself. He's got I'm forgetting a bunch of their names, but Cornell Rogers coming back. This defense is going to be fun. Like, I will not be surprised if this is a legitimately top 40, 30 defense this year, because they're going to be tested early, right? They go to A&M, right? They got SMU. They got these high-powered offenses that are going to be trying to push points, drive the ball down the field. But I think they're going to settle down, and it just depends on how this offense progresses. The defense, I legitimately think, will be fine. It does not matter that Zach Spavital is a first-year coordinator. That does not matter. The defense will be fine. It's all about the offense, just like last year we said it was going to be about the offense.
I'm geeked up, man. I'm fired up.
I'm really fired up. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe that first game at College Station will absolutely temper those expectations really quick. But no, I'm really enthusiastic. Going down there and talking to him myself, I was like, okay, I'm definitely on board now.
It's Ishmael Johnson. He is our Texas State insider.
Do I leave now?
Go ahead and
okay.
And now that's your Texas State talk. There you go.
Well, there's going to be a little bit more because we got some questions.
We go to Max Thompson for America's second favorite segment. Final thoughts.
Mizael asking the important questions. Did Ish have time to talk to Spavital about making sure they wear the throwbacks this year?
Those are.
I did not.
Those are in a state that has a variety of excellent throwbacks.
Sure.
Texas State, I think, rose to the top last year.
Yeah,
so good.
I wish yeah, sure, you can't wear the SWT every time, but if you just adjusted the maroon on the default helmet and just keep the uniforms, you're good. You're golden. Yeah. You are golden. And besides, I want a reason to wear that sweatshirt again.
Fair enough. Yeah. Our man Maverick Cassady, he was in the press box during the spring game, and he said Jensen looks like he's going to be the starter, but Gibson he thinks is going to give him a run.
I've been saying that. I've said this is kind of a new life for Jalen Gibson, because he didn't really fit that quarterback. The offense that Withers wanted to run, where the quarterback's kind of a runner. He's a good runner, but he wasn't Vitt. He wasn't Willie Jones. He wasn't that level of an athlete. But I think this is going to be more of an offense fit for him. So we'll see if he can work his way potentially into that backup quarterback slot behind Jensen.
He said overall he thought the running backs were what impressed him the most.
Good. That's a good.
A lot of Anthony Taylor.
Yeah, that's a good sign, because again, it's a lot of unproven potential with the skill positions on offense. You just
I think I have to
know.
say Anthony D. Taylor. Aren't there two
Anthony
Taylors?
Anthony Taylor is the cornerback from Allen, and Anthony D. Taylor is the running back from
They're
Denton
both
Geyer.
great.
Yeah.